Hey, hey, hey. Thanks for being in the REC experience. I'm your host, Jas Takhar, with your girl, Laura Elto Stewart.
Hey, Jazzy, what's up?
What's up, girl? How you been?
Good. We've been busy.
We have been busy. We have an amazing guests lined up for you guys to watch or listen, depending on if you're on YouTube or listening to us while you're driving, taking your dog for a walk. Either way, if you're listening, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube platform. If you're watching on YouTube right now, make sure you also hear us while you're driving, taking a dog for a walk, or on the treadmill. Any podcast platform, you just need to follow us on follow us at REC Experience. Yes, you're right. We have been busy.
We've been so busy. I actually didn't even get to sit in on today's conversation and hear.
Well, look, you obviously play the role as our director of sales and marketing. We just got back from, at the time of the recording of the podcast, we got back from a huge event with one of Canada's largest and fastest growing companies.
North America's largest investment group.
I apologize.
I believe, right?
You're right. Yes, Keyspire. They had their members only event, over 500 investors in a beautiful setting at the Fallsview Casino. We were one of, and lucky and blessed enough to be part of this community for the last 6 years. So it's kind of neat, right? We get to, their membership's up to like 32,
see the transition
3,300.
from like when there was hardly, well, not hardly any members.
It was a small group. It was like 100, 150 people.
Chugging along.
Yeah.
And then to see it snowball now into what it is today.
And we were lucky enough, again, not only to be part of this community for a very long time, but myself and Simos got to have one of the keynotes, and we spoke about what we do from a due diligence process when we look at any investment opportunity. Look out for that as an episode in the next coming weeks as well. Always go back to our past episodes because there's a lot of knowledge that our guests have been dropping from a real estate entrepreneurship and leadership perspective. We've been so busy that I know.
I was going to say, needless to say, I've been helping put people through their what we call our 10-day due diligence period for purchasing a pre-construction.
What is it exactly that it like? What's involved in that 10-day due diligence process, Laura? When someone purchases a pre-construction in Ontario,
they automatically
go through this 10 due diligence. What are they looking for? What are you helping them with?
So some people might know.
Because I don't think you're working sometimes, so I want to make sure. Like, I just want to like, what are you doing in that time?
Phone?
Yeah.
So automatically in Ontario, like you said, you automatically get a 10-day period where you get to do your due diligence. Some people refer to it as a cooling period. We like to refer to it as a due diligence period because essentially it gives you time to just read the contract, because on signing, you only have about 10 minutes to kind of go through everything, make sure your name's spelled correctly and that the unit number is correct. And that's about it. And then you're sent on your merry way.
Because you do it like on an iPad, like do,
exactly.
And it's done.
Exactly. It's all done and it goes by super, super fast. So in that time, I usually recommend, I definitely recommend speaking with a lawyer to review the contract with you. You want to make sure that you speak with a lawyer who is well-versed in pre-construction, specifically in the area in which you're buying it.
Because you've seen people make that mistake, right? They're buying in Toronto, but they're using their lawyer in Calgary.
Yeah, well, I'm going to use my lawyer who helped me buy my house, and a lawyer is still a lawyer, but sometimes, like if your lawyer has never seen pre-construction paperwork before, specifically the condominium documents, they're not going to know what to look out for. Also, some lawyers will charge you to do this for you. So it really just depends. We like to work with a select group of people who have helped us do hundreds of these. So they're well-versed. They know what they're doing.
What's the incentives that you're always making sure that from an investor's perspective are in the contract in writing? It's one thing when we just say it, but don't take our word for it. You want to make sure I want you to go over those incentives.
Yeah. So this is actually one of the things you guys did on stage at the investment seminar. Essentially, there's 3 really important incentives you want to take a look at. You want to make sure as an investor you have the right to assign your unit. Some people say a free assignment, or at least the right to assign. So it depends. Sometimes there's some legal fees involved. Essentially, that allows you to flip the paperwork or sell the paperwork before the project is built. That's very important because ultimately in the next 3 to 4 years while the building is being built, life happens. Perhaps you lose your job, you move, whatever your circumstance might change, and you aren't able to close on the building, on the unit. And so you need that right to be able to essentially get out. I call it an escape clause.
Love it.
It allows you the
like
opportunity
to sell.
Yeah.
In case you come across financial hardship.
Yeah, exactly. Now, some people do use that as their investing strategy. We don't necessarily suggest that because you're essentially, tied to the market, what's happening in the market in those next couple of years. But some people do use that as an ability to sell at the new price, at the appreciated price, and then make some quick profit. The second thing you want to make sure that is in your agreement is cap development charges. So once the building is built and the project is registered with the city, the developers charge a whole bunch of taxes for doing so, and usually they pass it on to the buyer, which is fine if you know what the amount is up front. So what has happened in years past is that people were given a bill for up to $20,000 saying you have to pay this now, and they didn't know about it when they bought it, and so they didn't save accordingly. So as long as your development charges are capped, then you at least know what you have to save for when the date comes. If it comes in at a lesser amount, you'll pay the lesser amount. If it comes in more, the developer has to eat it.
And I hear you say it on the phone all the time. We're just here to make sure that there's no surprises at closing. We're going to always tell you a little bit more when something's going out of your pocket and a little bit less when there's money coming in your pocket. Again, because then there's no surprises, and be ultra conservative. There's still another incentive that I know that you always go through when it comes to
this one's super important. So when you're doing a pre-construction purchase, there's sort of two closing dates. There's the occupancy date, which happens when the builder gives you your keys. Essentially, you can move into your unit. You as the purchaser can move into the unit. And then there's registration, which doesn't happen for 6 to 8 months roughly afterwards. And that's when the developer actually has, like, the condominium corporation is now registered with the city. You can close on your unit and title becomes yours, and you get the mortgage at that time. So in that 6 to 8 month period, if you can't lease during that time, you're actually going to be out of pocket. Reason being is during the occupancy period time, you actually pay property taxes, you pay your maintenance fees, and you pay a portion of the interest on your unit that the developer's paying. So if you can't rent it out that time, you're going to be out of pocket that money. So not a great investment right off the bat. So you always have to make sure you have the right to lease during occupancy.
And so you'll see it as a clause that says lease during occupancy, rental during occupancy. So you actually do something.
I do. And actually during that time, I will
know what you're talking about.
I will state that during that time, you actually will see the highest amount of positive cash flow sort of within that first couple of years.
And why is that again?
Because you're not paying your mortgage payment.
And so you're still renting it out at market rent, but your occupancy fee, if you take an average 500 square foot condo, approximately your occupancy fee is going to be about $1,500. But as we know in the city of Toronto specifically, you're probably renting that 500 square foot 1-bedroom condo for about $2,500.
Yeah.
So we take what could be the worst time,
and we turn it into the best time.
And we turn it into the best.
See, I listen. I know you talk a lot, and I make fun of you for it all the time. Just talking all the time.
Yeah.
But I do
so
listen.
You picked up on one or two things.
One or two things over time. Yeah.
It's why you're a director of sales and marketing. I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to your little guy, Rudy, who you did not see during this busy time. You picked up.
My baby
I was going to say your
boy.
little puppy, but he's not a puppy anymore.
Oh,
he's a big boy. He's how old is he now?
He's going to be 5 in February. Yes, you
can
could show that beautiful
show the
boy.
World. Your little guy.
He's cute, right? I like to call him the Brad Pitt of dogs.
Do you?
Yeah.
I know you didn't get to see him for a long time because you've been really busy, but you just picked him up a couple of days ago.
I just picked him up. He was so excited to see me. He cried. He tinkled a little bit. It's so cute.
I won't make you do the voice on radio. Maybe we should.
No, not today. Not today. But I was actually just in the washroom and somebody complimented me on my dog. Oh my God, your dog's so beautiful. And I like to think I had something to do with it. He's got my genes, obviously.
You've been with us for 4 or 5 years. I've never heard you reference him as the Brad Pitt of dogs, so it's kind of cool. That's something
I try not really say it, but I tell him to his face all the time.
I love it. Elto, thank you so much for everything you do. Guys, I hope you enjoy this week's podcast. It's with none other than Mr. Entrepreneur himself, David Meltzer, who, if you don't know who he is, just Google the guy after you hear this episode. He drops so much knowledge on all things entrepreneurship and leadership. He has an organization of in the hundreds in the sports marketing agency. He's actually tied really closely to Toronto. He'll make mention of that in the episode and how he's tied to Toronto. But he's made it really, really high and successful in business and then hit the low of lows in business and worked his way up again.
I love those stories. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to listen to this myself.
I know. Guys, enjoy it. Go follow David Meltzer. Go check out our description, the notes in the description. You'll see all his handles. Make sure you follow him because I have to say I get to watch and listen to him daily on my Instagram and YouTube feed. And this guy is someone that I have been really listening to for the last, I'm going to say about year now, and just learning a lot and trying to execute on some of his strategies and tips. Someone that I was blessed enough to have on our podcast. As always, guys, the feedback, the support that you've given us is overwhelming. Thank you. We have been nominated as one of Canada's top podcasts.
Sure have.
That's so cool. And thank you. And if you have not yet told your friends that this is the best podcast ever, please do so now.
Enjoy the show.
REC Experience presents Real Estate, Entrepreneurship, Leadership with your host, Jas Takhar. The REC Experience podcast is now on air.
Thank you so much for joining me today, David. It is a pleasure to have you on the REC Experience. You're bringing us into one of your cars. You got the audience behind you. You have the driver. You've just taken a flight in, and thank you for still doing this with me and sticking to your time, my man.
Absolutely. Time is a variable that I think is most important in figuring out how to be productive, accessible, and happy.
So look, David, I've been following you on Instagram and Facebook and all the socials. And for some of my viewers who have never come across you, give me a little bit about what you do, man. Like what's the business about in terms of the sports marketing agency, all that? Talk a little bit about that for us.
Sure. Well, it all started, I had a technology background being the CEO of the world's first smartphone. Then I ran Leigh Steinberg, the sports agency, Jerry Maguire. And then Warren Moon and I spun off a marketing company specifically to tie brands with events and charities. And so it was a boutique sports marketing firm that evolved into the capture, amplification, and perpetuation of that content. So we started dabbling in media, and through that, I've written a few books, started speaking. Instead of using all the great clients we had at Leigh's or Warren as a bug light to attract more business, I created one thing in marketing through the combination of traditional and digital marketing, and it's called the stage theory. So I have not strayed away from what we do in person, what we do on the phone, email, or all media, radio, print, and TV. I just use social media to capture it in a certain way, amplify it to the appropriate people within the strength of my signal, the spectrum of my signal, and the clarity of my message, and create strategies for the capture, amplification, and perpetuation of that content beyond what's actually happening live.
Now, shout out to your business partner, Warren Moon. My Canadian listeners know him very well. We're obviously based out of Toronto, so we're big Argonauts fans, but to our friends and families in Edmonton, they're definitely big fans of Mr. Warren Moon, so shout out to Warren. You talked about social media and content. And so why do you think that's important for entrepreneurs and people in business?
You don't realize where the audience is today and how we can do 5 things. 1, stimulate interest using digital media. 2, transition interest. 3, share that vision. 4, manage and develop the vision and actually thrive. So each of those categories, you can see different brands, different individuals that are in the 5 stages of thriving. And so as you work through those, digital media through the capture, amplification, and perpetuation allows you to work through the entire sales cycle. That's why it's so important for entrepreneurs to understand the digital aspect of leveraging the traditional media and marketing.
Now, the man that I'm talking to now and it's sitting in front of me, you didn't have it all easy. This didn't come to you.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
I like that. I
feel sorry for those people that grew up rich. That's all I know.
Why do you say that? Why, out of curiosity, what makes you say that?
Because I have my biggest challenge is to empower my children, and I can't teach them the struggle, right? I can't teach them what it's like to have 6 kids, a single mom, 2-bedroom apartment, wondering where your meal's coming from. I can't teach them the fire that it took to make sure that I made it and was successful to make my mom proud, to buy her a house, to buy her a car. So I have to utilize other things. And I'm more impressed by successful people that grew up rich. And I know people say, well, money makes money. It does not make empowerment. And so all those people that grew up with a lot and are still successful, kudos to you, because I feel like I have a huge leg up because I grew up with nothing.
I love it. And I love how you're sharing all these tips and strategies through your social media, because we get to be flies on the wall of conversations, that you're having, but even some of the pitfalls that you're going through. I know that you went bankrupt, correct me if I'm wrong, for a bit and went through some hard times. If you can go back to that really quickly for me, David, what did you do? What's some things that, like, how did you get inside your brain and practically do certain things? Like, what were some of those things that you did to get over the bad and rough times?
Yeah, so there's 4 things, number one, that I had to do. And the catalyst was my wife. Number one, I really had to understand my values. What I had noticed is all the successful people that made their decisions in a quick and efficient and effective and statistically successful way made their decisions based on values, and they wouldn't waver their values. They weren't people who wanted to be loved by everyone. They were people that wanted people, didn't mind if they didn't like them for who they were, but they did not want them to love them for who they're not. And so I went back and picked 4 values for me. One was I needed to live a gracious life. I needed to have the perspective that I get to do everything. I needed to start learning to love everything I did, finding the light in everything. And then forgiveness. I had to learn to forgive myself so I could give forgiveness to others, which kept me into a peaceful state, a more ego or truth-based conscious state. Then I had to take accountability. In 2008, everybody was in a state of blame, shame, and justification. What made me stand out, why I recovered so quickly, is everything that came at me, I took and was accountable for. I asked myself, what did I do to attract this to myself? And what am I supposed to learn from it? I wasn't worried about anybody that was lying, cheating, manipulating, stealing from me, not paying back their loans, all the things that were being done because just good people that are desperate do bad things. And I just took complete accountability. And then the final and most important thing is I shifted the paradigm of inspiration. Instead of sitting in bed going, what's going to motivate me? I can't believe I lost over $100 million on paper, a ski mountain, a golf course, 33 homes. Instead of looking at all of that, I just said to myself, how am I going to clear the connection, the corrosion that I've created between the most powerful source of energy, light, knowledge, and help? And so I became very strict about my values, and those values then aligned with who I was going to allow into my life, who and what I was going to do with my life, and what decisions I was going to make. And so I got laser focused, not out of fear, out of inspiration, in order to effectuate quantitative value. I had no subjective value in my life. I was tired of that overselling, back-end selling, lying, manipulating, looking at a subjective viewpoint. I got, and still do, to the quantitative value and analysis of how much money can we make? That is the currency of this vibration. It's an object of energy we put into the flow to get what we want. I learned through going bankrupt that money didn't buy happiness, but money's so important because if you buy the right things, it will make you happy. If you buy the wrong things, you won't. And values will determine buying the right or wrong things. So very quantitative in this analysis, very strict on my values. And then I went to town on creating good habits.
Now, I want to try to protect people from not losing $100 million and 33 homes and a golf course and like all that. Like, if you don't mind sharing with us, what happened? Like, what was some of the things that essentially maybe you lost yourself, or what happened?
It's a combination of a bunch of things. Number one, like everyone else, it was my ego. So I was living in a facade. I truly believed the bullshit that was being said about me, that I was Midas, everything I touched turned to gold, which led me to surround myself with the wrong people and the wrong ideas. Instead of continuing to learn and grow through mentorship, to find people that sat in the situation that I wanted to be in, I knew everything. I lived in an ego-based consciousness, which was a need to be right, a need to be offended, a need to be separate. And that means inferior and superior, a need to be anxious, fearful, all of those different, and greedy, scarce, all of those things. And when I learned, in the pragmatic thing I did wrong, just for those out there that may be in real estate, is that I never imagined that the bank would not let me borrow against my equity. I never imagined the bank would fail. I always thought, as I went through my cash in lawsuits and Ferraris and Porsches and motorhomes and boats and other stupid stuff, I always felt secure in buying that stuff because I had so much equity. I always thought I could borrow against it. But when you have that much, when you're living, my uncle always says the air gets very thin up there. Well, it gets thin because things are vibrating very fast and things move quickly. And pretty soon, if you can't become liquid quick enough, you start missing payments. Nobody's going to give you money. You don't get your liquidity or your money. You end up losing your properties. And that's really what I did. And the funny thing for me, I didn't fight the bankruptcy. I literally tried to settle out the bankruptcy so everybody got paid. I gave property back that had equity. I, didn't have huge debt. It wasn't like I loaded up my credit cards and, my house was upside down because I borrowed so heavily against it. None of that was true. I just needed a fresh start. I needed to prove myself that I could live and grow by two things. One, by asking a series of questions of others of how I could provide value. And two, asking for help. Asking a series of questions if they or anyone knew anyone that could help me. Those two series of questions are things that I teach entrepreneurs how to do, and they create a flow and allow you to be successful at whatever you do. So if you're listening to this, go back and listen to the two series of questions that you have to learn how to ask. One, how to be of service and provide value. The other, if you can find somebody that can help you.
Now, talking about finding somebody that can help you, I'm 38 years old. I met my first mentor when I was 20 years old, took me under his wing, one of Canada's largest auto dealers in the country. And then 3-4 years later, I met a guy in real estate. He's passed now a couple of years ago, but he also took me under his wing. Out of sheer luck, I met both of these people.
Luck, my friend.
I like what you're saying, but I mean, like a fax came through. I picked up a fax and I met, it was amazing. Changed the course of my life. I am where I am because of those two guys and a lot of others. But a lot of people do ask me, David, how do I find a mentor or how do I know it's the right person? What's your thoughts around that, man?
Yeah, so there's the equation of luck, and it's what you pay attention to and put your intention, your activity, your focus. What you put attention to plus your intention will equal the coincidences that you are looking for, the luck that you're looking for. And so when you put out there, I really need someone to help me understand finance better. I really need, and you start taking action and going to events that have people that are financial gurus, or you start doing research about who are the leaders in that space or who sits in the situation you want to be in. When you start paying attention plus that activity, that intention, the coincidences will start happening. The faxes will come, or the emails will come, or the text messages, or the guy sitting next to you on the plane, his uncle will be your ultimate guru, your mentor. All these coincidences start occurring with the simple equation of what you pay attention to and give intention to will equal the coincidences, the mathematical occurring of two things happening at the right way at the perfect time. Those coincidences will happen. I guarantee it. It's math.
You spoke about living a gracious life. I want to make sure I understand that properly. Is that like living in gratitude?
Yeah. So living a gracious life is that, and it's a practice, right? I tell everyone, every lesson that I'm going to teach you on this interview, every lesson that you're going to learn from anyone, you're going to forget at one time or another. In fact, I forget to be gracious all the time. I forget to look for the light, the love, the knowledge. I forget to say I get to do everything. I don't have to do anything. All of the gratitude issues, from saying thank you when you go to bed to thank you when you wake up, to finding the light or learning to love what you do, or getting to do things, not having to do things. All of those things are practice, and it's a perspective practice, because if you can change within, the projection without changes. So I work within all the time to correct the lenses in which I'm going to see through. And there's three lenses that I call it the Meltzer kaleidoscope. I look through a lens of productivity of all times. How can I provide value to others? I look through a lens of accessibility. How accessible am I to others, and how am I accessing what I want? And the third lens is of gratitude. Am I looking at everything? Am I looking for the light, the love, the knowledge, the lessons? Am I seeing the glass half full in everything I do? Those are the three lenses that will drive you to an unbelievably purposeful, passionate, and profitable life.
Well, I can talk to the fact of you being accessible. Not only do you reply back to your comments, I shot you a DM, you reached out, you set me up with your team, and I actually am very grateful. Like, they even put me through somewhat of like a litmus test to kind of get this interview done. But you reached out yourself to say, hey, get in touch with my team and your team. I think it's Alex. Just amazing team that you have around you. I want to talk a little bit about your actual business. What's some changes in your business now that you've seen in the last couple of decades? How has technology changed things? And maybe, I see some younger people behind you there, and your driver is that how you deal with and work around younger people? Has that changed? Like, what's your thoughts on kind of the whole business?
Well, I think the younger people became more and more valuable. Originally, when I was at Leigh Steinberg, I had a young intern program as well. And it was really more a giving back program, an educational program, simply to educate them on sports agentry, sports marketing. Now, if you look in the last decade, every one of our huge institutions in the world has accelerated and grown so much that they're ineffective. Our educational system is antiquated. Our financial institutions are antiquated. Our political institutions are antiquated. Everything that we're looking at, commerce itself has completely changed. When you're looking at the biggest companies in the world, the biggest hotelier in the world doesn't own hotels. The biggest car company taxi company in the world doesn't own taxis, right? The biggest food companies don't own food. It's an entirely different thing. What I love about it is that it is not only the fastest growing period of time in the history of the world, that there's more data processed today than in the entire 50s. Just in the Wall Street Journal, more data is going to be processed in the Wall Street Journal today than literally in the entire 1950s. We are in a revolution. There's so much opportunity. And the biggest opportunity is the frequency. And when I say that, it's understanding that the strength of your signal as an individual sitting in Zionsville, Indiana, can reach 4.2 billion people. The spectrum of your signal can reach all ages, all sexes, all religions, anything. Then the clarity of your message can resonate within a context of 4.2 billion people, literally for free. And if you don't understand how that affects your business, the understanding of the frequency, the strength of the signal, spectrum of the signal, the clarity of your message, whether you're an individual, a brand, or you just simply have content, a great idea, it does not matter. You have to understand those three things and then make the difference between being an innovator or an entertainer and an entrepreneur. And the difference between an innovator, an entertainer, and an entrepreneur is the entrepreneur monetizes what he's doing. Everyone else just comes up with good ideas.
Now, and there's some guys and gals that talk about the fact that you shouldn't monetize or feel bad that money doesn't grow on trees, and you shouldn't. Who do you think you are being rich? And we grow up with some of these statements, and we're fed some of this by teachers and parents and family members. But at the end of the day, if you're providing value, your net worth is going to be determined by how much value you bring.
Exactly. And I take it to the next level. My net worth is determined the value that I give. Right? Everything comes through me for others. My net worth is my network because I'm kind to my future self and I do good deeds. I am motivated to make as much money as I can for one purpose, to help as many people and have as much fun. And so everything, instead of being in a world of not enough, a scarce world where there's not enough of anything for anyone, like some of those haters out there, or even living in a world of just enough where you just have enough for you, a scarce environment where there's never truly enough. Live in the world of more than enough. Live in a world of more than enough. Allow things to come through you with appreciation, meaning add value to it, and give it away. And give it away unconditionally to make room for more. You're not hurting yourself. And I think that philosophy is that paradigm shift that changed my life when I lost everything.
I love it. The pie's big enough. We can all eat. And if we run out of a pie, let's go bake some more.
Exactly.
David, talk to me about your book really quickly. I got a couple of more minutes with you. Again, I want to be very respectful of your time. What can readers expect of your latest book, and how do they get it?
Yeah, Game Time Decision Making is available everywhere. Amazon's probably the best place to get it. It's called Game Time Decision Making, and it teaches you how to make quick, accurate, statistically successful decisions in order to be happy, in order to make money, help people, and have fun. My podcast, The Playbook's kicking some butt. It's the top entrepreneur podcast. I love
the name, by the way. I love the name of that podcast, man. Totally makes sense in your world.
Yeah, it's the Playbook to Success, and I got some killer people sharing their playbooks to success with you, and hopefully asking the right questions. Even more, too, I have a TV show called World's Greatest Motivators. That's worldwide on WGN, cable networks, Reach TV. Then we also have Beyond the Secret. The movie The Secret's coming out January 23rd. So catch that. That's going to be launching. If you love the movie The Secret, you'll love Beyond the Secret. Still with Bob Proctor and all the rest of the gang. They've just added myself in there for some reason to give a little bit of talk about the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious continuum, about a new way to look at the laws of attraction. Anyway, I appreciate everyone. You can find me at David Meltzer. Remember the name David Meltzer. You search that, you'll find me. My website's dmeltzer.com. I am of service and be happy to help anyone, as you know. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share.
And the first 10 people to like this video and comment, good, bad, or ugly, I have 10 books, 10 copies of David's book, and I'm going to make sure that I send those out and get those in your hands. Look at the episode description. Go ahead, David.
Perfect. If anyone wants to text me, and I'm going to give this, I will give them a free course, the Game Time Decision Making course that I created, free. So just text me at 949-298-2905. 949-298-2905. Text me at that text community I have, and I will send you a free course on Game Time Decision Making.
I'm going to make sure I get your number into the episode description where you can find this guy's podcast. David's podcast is really kick-ass. Listen to it all the time. Your guests are amazing, even your insights. And more importantly, on a daily, just make sure you go check out his Instagram profile, because the videos, it's straight fire. It's like he's telling you how to actually leave a voicemail. That's a skill that we all still need to use. Even the leaving your phone number twice is something I've always done, and it was really nice to see that you were giving that insight as well. Thank you so much, and thank you to the guys in the car, because they probably heard you say and speak what you've spoken about thousands of times. So thanks to the rest of the crew, and David, thank you, my man.
Thank you. I'll do it anytime. And go Edmonton Eskimos, my favorite team.
Thanks a lot, David. David, really appreciate it. I know I know this is the end of the recording. I know you're connected with Toronto somehow. There's a new franchise here. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so I am an original investor in the Toronto eSport teams. So Overactive Media. I'm an original investor with Meta World Peace and Marcus Colston, The Weekend, and so that team is just killing it. We're almost as good as the Toronto Raptors.
Almost. Look, when you come to Toronto, I would love to take you out for a drink or a coffee, as well as I'm part of a big organization, Roller Page, which is the biggest real estate company in Canada, and we always need speakers. So let me know if you're anything about to Toronto. I'll connect you with the right people, and you never know what can happen. Whatever I can give, whatever value I can give back to you, my man.
I'm keynoting Collision up there in March, so I'd love to set up a speech with you guys as well. So I'll have Jake reach out. That's Jake. Say hi, Jake.
What up, Jake? Thanks so much. Right. Really appreciate your time, man. All right, bye.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
This has been the REC Experience Podcast with Jas Takhar, an REC Canada production.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching and listening. Please take a second right now to subscribe and follow us on whatever podcast platform you're watching or listening. It means the world to me. Thank you.